Unique RaQuel-Leona Harris was a 24-year-old from Washington, D.C. She was the mother of two and was getting ready to go to massage therapy school. On the night of October 9th, 2010, Unique put her children and cousin to bed. When the kids woke up the next morning, Unique was gone. She was never seen again. I'm Ed Dunsel, and this is Unfound. Even as a non-parent, I can say there's nothing much more cuter and soothing and peaceful than seeing a child asleep. Whether it's in a crib, or a bunk bed, which is what I had, or just the couch. Eyes closed, limbs spread out in a way that would give most adults muscle cramps, maybe a little slobber dribbling from the corner of the mouth, and their dreams. What do you think kids dream about? I mean, their life experiences are limited at that point. Their minds don't have much to tap into. My own dreams, sometimes they take me back 40 years to my childhood, taking place in the old house on Godfrey Road. But for tykes, a few years don't seem like enough time to provide a large variety of unconscious thoughts. But I suppose their little brains are doing something. Personally, I don't remember doing any dreaming as a child. Either way, kids can sleep. And I can't help but think all of us adults should have never argued when our parents wanted to put us down for a nap. I mean, really, did we really all argue with that? Well, in the disappearance of Unique Harris, it was a night like any other. She tucked in her two kids and her cousin. But then the next morning, Unique was gone. And we're left to figure out what happened while the children slept. And now a summary of the case. This is brought to you by my friend Megan Good's website, charleyproject.org. Unique Harris lived a clean and moral life in Richmond, Virginia. This is where she had her two sons. However, the relationship with their father didn't go the way she planned. So Unique and her children moved back to the Washington, D.C. area to be closer to family, not long before Unique disappeared. This move allowed Unique to prepare to go back to school. In the meantime, she looked for part-time work to hold her over until classes began. In addition, during those few weeks between moving to D.C. and disappearing, Unique started a relationship with a new man. Distressingly, just weeks before she disappeared, Unique witnessed a murder right outside her apartment. Yet this didn't deter her from staying in that building. So on December 9th, 2010, Unique's 9-year-old cousin was sleeping over. Around 9 p.m., Unique put her two sons and the little girl to bed. In later conversations, the children stated they thought Unique would sleep on the couch that night. When the children awoke the next morning, Unique wasn't there. She was never seen again. There were no signs of violence, and the only items missing were Unique's house keys and phone. Also, the kids heard nothing unusual during that night, thus could give no ideas as to what happened. There are quite a few different theories regarding Unique's disappearance, but each seems to have a confounding issue. The new boyfriend has an alibi of being in West Virginia at the time. Unique's ex has an alibi of being in Richmond, 90 miles away, at the time. Also, the police have seemingly determined Unique's disappearance has nothing to do with her witnessing the murder. Yet questions regarding none of those topics remain. Number 1. Why would Unique, who could barely see without her glasses, leave them in her bedroom when she was sleeping on the couch 30 feet away? Number 2. If Unique was abducted, Why was the door to the apartment locked? Would a kidnapper really lock it on the way out? And number 3, likewise, if Unique voluntarily left the apartment alone or with someone else, why would she leave the children there alone? 10 years into this disappearance, and Unique's family still has no solid theories as to what happened to Unique. The guest for this episode is Unique's mother, Valencia Harris. Unfound News. I want to remind everyone that this weekend, September 19th and 20th, there will be a search of the area around where Jacob Paddock Weeks' truck was found, near Indian Hills, Colorado, on Route 285. If you are interested in helping, please go to the Jacob Weeks' search page on Facebook for more information. Next, as many of you already know, Eric Franks' car has been found. It seems it was in a garage in Saginaw, Michigan all this time. If you will go to either the Unfound Podcast discussion group or Unfound's page on Facebook, you will find pictures of the outside of the residence where the car was stashed. Do you see the difference in the pictures? Eric, however, has still not been found. Finally, next Thursday and live on the Nova Southeastern University's YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Eastern, I will be joining Dr. Grace Telesco again. I think this is the third time. We will be discussing the disappearance of Eric Alvarado and most likely general topics regarding missing persons cases. Please tune in. Where you can find Unfound. Unfound supports accounts on Podomatic, iTunes, Stitcher, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Deezer, Facebook, and YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, on Wednesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern, please join us on our podcast channel for the Unfound Live Show. All of you can talk with me, and I can answer your questions. Contribute to Unfound at patreon.com/Unfound Podcast. This week for Patreon, I need to thank Katie and Tink. You can also contribute at PayPal, paypal.me/Unfound Podcast. I'm so happy to have on this episode of Unfound the mother of Unique Harris, Valencia Harris. Valencia, welcome to Unfound.
Well, thank you for having me, and I appreciate you taking interest in Unique.
You're very, very welcome. And let's start right here. Let's just talk about your family in general. How many children, including Unique, do you have?
I have 3. Unique is my oldest daughter.
All right. And you have 2 other daughters, a son and a daughter.
Another daughter and a son.
Okay.
My son is in the middle.
Okay, son's in the middle, sandwiched by 2 girls. How did he handle that?
True. I don't think, he has a problem with it at this point.
Okay. All right, all very close in age or spread out?
Well, actually, all of their birth dates are 10 days apart, which has always been, a source of, interest for people.
I bet.
My son is January 21st, Unique is January 31st, and my youngest daughter is February 11th.
Wow, my niece's is February 11th. My niece Ashley. That's interesting. Okay.
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
and my youngest daughter's name is Ashley.
Wow. So, Ashley's become a very popular name, so maybe that's not surprising. Okay, so you have 3 children, 2 girls and a boy. How would you say that Unique was being the oldest child? Look out for her younger brother and sister. What kind of older sister was she?
Most definitely. She always felt like, she had to take care of them and, make sure they were okay, as well as me and anybody that was in Unique's arena.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's the type of person that she is. I repost a post that I received from a young lady that Unique had helped when Unique took her and her baby in.
Wow.
So Yeah, Unique had taken her and her baby in. And that's a long story.
Okay.
But
Well, that sounds very
that's the type
considerate of
child
her.
that Unique is.
Yeah, how old, when did that happen? Do you know what year or how old Unique was when she did that?
That was, she was probably between, I want to say 18 and 20.
Wow.
18 and 20 or 18 and 22, something like that.
Wow. And at
Yeah,
that point,
yeah.
Unique would have already had at least one child of her own, and then she was doing this for somebody else.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's the type of child Unique is, and she's always been that way. As I've said before in so many other interviews, as well as this just being the natural facts, from the time Unique was a small child, she always had that, I like to call it maternal queen instinct about her.
Interesting. Okay.
Definitely. My little princess.
Your little princess. Okay. What was she into? Like, did she have any interest or hobbies, academics, sports, music? What were some of the things that really interested her as a young woman?
Well, a lot of what interested Unique was, I think she was interested in music. She liked music more than I do. She liked music more than I do. She was into like Christy. She's like a Christy girly girl. You know, one of her favorite things, or a collection that she had, which I had to take out of her apartment in 2010, of her purses. She's always been a dainty Christy.
Wow. Is this like
from day one, and I think it's my fault, Ed. I started with her little ruffly lace socks when she was a baby and stuff like that.
That's funny. So are we talking like, when you say purses, like high-end purses, or all across the spectrum?
All across the spectrum, and you know, that was one of the things when I realized that, you know, Unique was gone.
Yeah.
That was left behind.
Right.
So that was like a trigger for me, along with her glasses. Like, something's really happened to her.
Yeah. Yeah, I can understand that,
couldn't
right?
see a good 5 or 10 feet in front of her without her glasses. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been buying her glasses since she was a child.
Yeah. Yeah, and maybe we should talk about that. From an early point in her life, she needed glasses. Her eyesight, even as a little kid, was pretty bad.
Oh yes. I think we realized what was going on between K and 2, like second grade, between kindergarten and second grade. I had a conversation with one of her teachers at the time, and she suggested that we move Unique's desk closer to the board. And I was like, closer to the board? Why would she need to be moved closer to the board? And that's when she told me she felt like, you know, Unique had a problem with her vision. And lo and behold, I took her to the eye doctor outside of the eye exam she was already having in school and stuff like that. I took her to the eye doctor, and I had to buy her glasses every since up until she became an adult and started buying her own. But either way, it was a necessity.
Wow. Huh. Okay. And that will, of course, like you said, that will play a role later. You mentioned school. Graduate from high school, go to college. What kind of education? And I know we have to, of course, talk about how she was going to be attending massage therapy school. What do we want to talk about regarding her education?
Well, she graduated from John Marshall High School in 2004. That was my first baby to graduate, so I was just like totally ecstatic. I have a picture on my screensaver now on my phone of her graduation day. And I think I was probably smiling more than she was.
Is this, I've seen this picture.
I had her diploma in my hand.
Is this the picture I've seen with her with the white cap on?
And gown, yeah.
Yeah, white cap. I've seen this picture. It's on her profile here that I see here.
I still have her cap and gown, Ed.
Oh, do you? Wow.
Yes, I still have her cap and gown.
Wow. So she graduated high school.
She went to the prom.
Yeah, right. Wow. So she graduated high school. Did she start college, or did she get a job? What'd she do after high school?
Well, after high school, she got a job. She started working at Subway, and then we had relocated to Richmond, Virginia, and she was there for a while. That's where my grandson came into play, and then already that she was when she got back to DC in June of 2010. She had signed up for massage therapy school with Centura College out in it's either Virginia, because they had contacted me, I guess a week or two after her abduction, and I had to explain to them what was going on while they were explaining to me that she had applied for financial aid and gotten approved.
All right. So were you excited about her going to massage therapy school? Was that something you supported?
Yes. Yes. Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Anything positive or constructive with my children, I'm always going to, support them. Now, how they receive that support is something different, but that's my job as their mom to support them and my grandchildren as well.
Sure.
Because I have grandbabies.
I know you do. I know you do. I know, yes. All right, so she got some work out of high school, working at Subway, but then later, of course, the year that she disappeared, she was going to be going to massage therapy school, but somewhere in there, like you said, she had a couple kids. Maybe just, of course, we're not going to mention their names. We're not going to mention the father's name either for the purposes of this interview. But how did you feel about becoming a grandmother for the first time when she had her first and then her second?
Now, I got to tell you this, and this is true story.
Please.
My oldest grandson, Richard, that's my baby. I'm going to name his name because that's my baby.
All right.
I can name that
Your choice. Your choice, absolutely.
Right. I got you. But he came home on Christmas Eve.
Huh.
He came home on Christmas Eve. So for 2004, that was my Christmas present from Unique. I told her I didn't even need nothing else.
Yeah. Santa Claus did well that year.
Yes, he did.
Okay. Great.
He did.
Great. And when did the second one come along?
Andre was born in 2006, and Andre was born actually on birthday. Whose birthday? My grandfather's birthday.
Your grandfather's birthday.
My grandson was born on my grandfather's birthday.
Wow, so his great-great-grandfather. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I have precious jewels, and I have precious jewels as well as my other two grandbabies,
Yeah.
I got to say their names, too, because if I don't, they're going to be upset.
Yeah, you got to treat everybody, as a grandmother, you got to treat everybody equally, right? That's what you got to do.
Exactly. Same way with the children and the grandchildren.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't have any children, or hence no grandchildren, but I know how that can be, that you gotta treat them all with this same equal amount of love. That's certainly true.
Exactly, and they would be upset with me if I had mentioned.
Okay, well they are mentioned. How did you? Now you've already said though that she was in Richmond, but you said that she moved back to Washington D.C. With the children, without the children's father. And I'm not here to get into deep into relationships. Did the relationship just not work out, or how would you portray that?
It did work out, and Unique wanted a change of scenery as well as change of stressors in her life, the whole 9 yards. So that's another reason why she had moved back to DC, as well as the fact that I had moved back to DC.
Oh, okay.
I was in Virginia Union College.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so she moves back with her two children in 2010, the year she disappeared. Okay. And the father of those children, he stayed in Richmond.
Yes.
Okay. And how was everything when she moved closer back to you? I guess she had her own place with her 2 children, and she was living close to you. How was that? How'd that all work out in 2010?
Well, I thought it was working out well, Ed.
You thought so. All right.
Between June and October the 10th of 2010,
right,
something went horribly wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to be honest with you, was happy because Unique and I were born in D.C., so I was happy, that I had came back and she had came back to D.C.
Yeah.
And, even to this day, I have a bittersweet relationship in my mind as far as the D.C. of my birthplace.
Yeah.
It gave me life, but it also took something from me. At least.
Right. Well, before she disappeared, but though, of course that's why we're talking about it. But that summer, let's say, when she moved back, was everything getting along fine? You were getting to see her more. You're getting to see your grandbabies. I guess all that, it was good up until October.
Yes, we registered the boys for school. She had started out because, as you already know, she only lived in her apartment that she was taken from for 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Right.
For those 5 weeks, she was staying with me until she moved into her apartment.
Oh, all right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in that time frame from June to October, we were like, and actually, the end of September, we were actually getting the children. The children had been registered for school. They had started going to school. Unique was a very active mom when it came to their school, and, even the teachers at my grandson's school were totally befuddled when I had to go in there and explain to them what had happened, because their school actually was closer to where I lived at the time than Unique. But she was still only like 5 minutes away, which gave me a false sense of security, of course.
Right. Right. When she moved back to Washington, D.C., and she was living with you, did she was she working? Of course, we know she was applying to school. But was she just working or just being a mom while you were going to work? Once again, while you were living together, what was going on there?
Right, and she was also applying for work as well.
Yeah.
She had an idea to work and go to school. So she was applying for jobs as well.
Okay. Why was it then, eventually, being that she was living with you, at least it sounds like everything was fine, why do you think that she ended up moving out and getting her own place?
Oh, Ed, that's because I raised my children to be fiercely independent.
Mm-hmm.
And, even though, I had reassured her on multiple occasions that she could, stay with me as long as she needed to,
Yeah.
I raised her to be independent.
Yeah.
Sometimes I rep my independence to a fault myself, so I'm probably the only person that can understand that fully.
Yeah. Well, I want you to know, you sound like my mother. My mother's deceased now, but I'm telling you, she raised her son to be very independent, but on the other hand, it would have been perfectly fine with her if I was still living at home at the age of 48. That would have been,
right?
Yeah, that would have been, now my dad, not so much, but my mother, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how I was feeling, like, yeah, sure, you and the grandbaby, come on, y'all come on.
That's right. That's right. So I get it. I think I see your side of it, and I certainly see her side of it. If you raised her to be independent, then of course she wants to be her own woman, with her children. So I get it. And she found that place that, she eventually found. Now, somewhere in here, though, she did start dating a new guy. We're not going to mention his name. But how did you feel about that? Did you get to meet him? And, how did you think the relationship was going? Your opinion?
Yeah, I didn't. She was 24 at the time, so, and then they hadn't dated that long, so I never really, I guess, got a chance to form an opinion of him that quickly.
Mm-hmm. Did I see somewhere in here that they met at a July 4th party or something like that? Did you tell me?
Family reunion. We
Family
had
reunion. Okay.
family reunion in DC.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And do you have any idea how often? We're going to talk a little bit about him in a second, but do you know how often they were seeing each other? Once a week, once a month, or do you have any ideas at all?
It was probably more like, I don't know. I couldn't say for sure. Fairly regular. I'm not sure whether I could say daily or weekly or not or anything like that, because at that particular time I was really, really on my grind and my hustle is,
Yeah.
really trying to, make ends meet, and I had multiple jobs, as
Wow.
I mean,
Okay.
and still do, but yeah.
Okay. All right, that's great. So she starts this new relationship. They met at a family reunion. I guess you must have known somebody else in your family and was there or something, or.
I believe so. I believe it was that some type of connection like that how they connected.
Okay. So like a friend of a family member, something like that.
Yeah, because even after the scenario, I had an opportunity to have a conversation with him and, myself before, I guess I even realized he may have or have not played a part in it, as far as relationship wise. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
So I had to talk to him, and the vibe that I got from him was that no, it's no way that he would have had anything to do with that. That's from our brief interaction where I was kind of like specifically questioning him about certain things face to face, because I wanted to talk to him face to face.
Right. Well, we were going to talk about that for sure. But we have to understand, though, in talking about him, though, that it seems like they had some sort of long-distance relationship, because once again, from what you told me, during that summer and then into September, October, he was working for Job Corps in West Virginia, right?
As far as the information I had.
Okay. All right. And do you have, once again, your knowledge, did he ever come back like on a weekend or something to see Unique? Did she ever go to see him? Once again, any
Not to my knowledge.
All right. Okay. And we'll come back to him. All right. And then I think we have to talk about this. Being that she moved and took her children to Washington, D.C. from the Richmond area, which, an hour and a half away, how did her ex feel about this? Because it is public information that they had some sort of custody support hearing coming up or something like that. How were those two getting along once she moved back to D.C.? If you could say.
It really was, as far as I know, no interaction between my grandson's father and Unique from the time she had moved back to D.C. Now, if it was, I don't know about it.
All right. You can only tell us what you know. Thank you.
I can't, personally speak on and say, well, yeah, I had heard them having conversations or nothing like that.
If you don't know, you don't know. That's fine. It's fine. But once again, did they have some sort of hearing coming up sometime in later October into November? Or, I don't know. I'm just asking, was he not paying his child support, or was there some sort of problem there, to your knowledge?
Well, I had some information that there was a court date coming up.
Okay.
Okay. My own personal information. That they had a court date coming up. Okay. Now, when I questioned him about that, he stated to me at that time that he didn't know anything about it. Wow. And as far as that goes, I'll just leave that right there.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. Being that I know you and Unique were very close, you told me that you talked to her, basically every day. You probably got to see her a lot once you moved back to Washington, D.C. Did she ever say anything about a custody hearing of any kind coming up? Ever?
She never told me about it. No.
No. Okay.
I mean, I know they have been having, child support payment court dates, but this specific one, no, he didn't tell me about. I didn't know about that. I had to find that out after the fact.
All right. All right. So, but Unique, herself, your daughter, you're very close to her. She never said anything like that.
About a court date?
Yes. Any trial or hearing. I don't want to make it sound like a trial, like a hearing, in front of some government official regarding anything having to do with their children.
Not that specific one that, I found out about after the fact. Now, I know they had prior court dates prior to that. Because that was like a 2-year battle that had been going on at the time.
Wow. Okay. Was it, to use your words, was it a battle, or was it something that you think that they were just going to eventually iron out, or was it contentious?
Well, I think anytime you have two people involved in a young relationship, it can get contentious quickly.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm not going to speak on, other things in my daughter's personal life that was going on. But what I will say is that, she was in a situation where they moved to another state.
Yeah.
And apparently, my grandson's father, I'm saying, this last court date that they had, I didn't know anything about it, but I did know they had court dates
prior to her going missing.
Like I said, this was like a 2-year court situation going on. Okay. So, I mean, as far as whether he did or did not know, which is, I've had a conversation with him about as far as his answer.
He said no.
He said he didn't know about it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. And we'll talk about them later. And I know, just because of the way disappearances in general are, not just Unique's, but many, that when women go missing, of course, some of the popular suspects, person of interest, boyfriends, husbands, ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands, lovers, and everything. But we'll talk about them a little bit later. And I think probably people are going to, probably think that maybe these two had nothing to do with the disappearance. But I do have to ask you questions about them.
And not only that, I want to make it perfectly clear. I'm not saying whether they did or did not.
No, I know. Absolutely not. Great. Yeah, for the record, for the listeners, you should know Valencia has no opinion on that. She's not pointing fingers, anything else. I'm just trying to ask her factual questions, just so we make sure we understand the exact situation. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to keep any vagueness out of it. And she's not issuing any allegations against anybody, period. Let's move on to this. Now, this once again is also public information, and so I feel like I have to ask you about it. Unique, she hadn't been living in this apartment very long, but she witnessed the shooting. Do you remember the day, the morning, the night when she told you that she saw this? I mean, maybe you can just...
I remember it vividly, Ed, because my daughter called me hysterical about a deceased body, under her window. She was on the top floor of the building. Wow. And all I could tell my daughter to do was get away from the window, because I didn't know what, it was apparently, from what I understood, or what she was saying, like, you could see it from her window. Mm-hmm. But from the information I got, the case has been resolved. And that is not supposed to have anything to do with Unique's abduction.
Right. The police have told you that this murder, which occurred right outside her window, has nothing to do. The police have told you that it has nothing to do with her disappearance, in their opinion. Nothing can be connected.
That was my understanding. Yes, it was.
Okay. And the listeners should know, in fact, already, we're doing this interview on September 15th, 2020. I've already posted something on Facebook in the discussion group and on the page regarding that shooting. and at least the very, very general details of when it happened, at what time, and who was involved, so they can read it for themselves. Was the Unique the one, to your knowledge, was she the one that called 911? Did she hear that it was a shooting? Did she hear the gunshots? And I mean, was she very explicit with you, or what?
No, she didn't say anything. She was on the phone with me, and I think she would have told me, or I would have even told her to call 911, for some emergency assistance for the person. But no,
Okay. All right, so are you saying then that she just kind of saw it after it was done or something like that?
I guess at this point, yeah, with information that I have, yeah.
Okay. All right, so those are some of the things that were going on in Unique's life. Not long before she disappeared, she had this boyfriend who was living in West Virginia. She had this ex, seemed to be having some custody issues with, maybe child support, maybe something else, but it should be known that he still lived in Richmond, Virginia, over 90 miles away. And then she moves into this apartment complex, and not long after that, there's a shooting in which a man is murdered. Oh, I shouldn't say murdered. He was killed. We don't know. It could have been self-defense. We don't know. But a man did die from a shooting right outside her apartment. At the time, did Unique ever express any...
And that was supposed to be a mutual combat type of situation?
I don't know. I don't know the resolution to that. There's no resolution as to whether the shooter who killed the other guy went to jail or not. It very well could have been I don't want to say murder because it could have been a self-defense situation. I don't know. All I know is one guy shot another guy, and the guy that got shot died. So I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. But there was this guy who died from a shooting outside, and at any point did Unique say to you, maybe I should move somewhere else? Did she continue to feel safe in that apartment, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, it was only 5 weeks she was there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, it takes a while for you to, some things just happen.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? So sometimes things like that, because I've moved into complexes before when things happen, for probably a couple of months or so, at least, probably sometimes even more than that, and wasn't like, okay, let's go.
Okay, yeah, you just have to, okay.
That's, you can't let the world do that to you.
Okay, all right, I got it. So she was content in staying in an apartment, and of course she was in there with her children.
As far as safety goes, yes. As far as safety goes, now there were some other issues that she had with, some maintenance things that had needed to be, taken care of in her apartment. One thing was, I was totally just disgusted at the fact that, Unique's frame of her door looked like it had been battered.
Oh.
And I didn't feel secure about that part, but I thought I still had security with the intercom that was, outside of her building when you had to let people in, but apparently that wasn't working. Like the cameras around, it wasn't working.
Okay.
Anyway.
All right. Okay. So we had some things going on there, but Unique, even after this man died outside, she was content on living there, and she continued to live there, and it just sounds like she had some maintenance issues, which anybody who's ever lived in an apartment complex knows sometimes it can take a while for things to get fixed, no matter where you live. All right. Anything that now, almost 10 years in, anything that you look back at now that in those maybe weeks before she disappeared that seems unusual, something maybe you didn't notice at the time that now all these years later you think back and think, well, there was something off, something that she said, anything like that didn't seem strange at the time but maybe catches your attention now regarding those weeks before disappearing?
Or has caught my attention since.
Yeah.
There was, when I had to, of course, go through Unique things and move her things out of, and all that sort of.
Mm-hmm. I'm just saying, anything time you talk to her on the phone, did she kind of ever seem like there was something on her mind that she couldn't talk to you about? that might have led you to believe, maybe at the time you just thought, well, she's just a little down, but now you look back at it now and say, maybe there was something going on with her and somebody, and she didn't want to tell me about it. Anything like that before she disappeared? Anything?
Actually, no, because me and Unique had a pretty open relationship with each other. Still, I know her being probably my most sensitive and thoughtful and sweetest child that, she would told me anyway to keep me from worrying.
Right. Well, kids do that. I do that too. I'm
I
50 and I do that. Yeah. I'm 50 and I still do that with my dad, so I know that feeling. Okay.
Exactly.
So we come to October 8th, 2010. And what went on this day? Of course, she was there. She has her kids there, but I guess she had her niece over as well. And do you know...
October the 9th.
October the 9th. I'm sorry, October the 9th. And so October the 9th, she has her kids, and she then has her niece there as well. Do you know what they did? Did they go out? Did they just stay at home? Do you know any of her movements for that day?
It was her cousin, her baby cousin, and he was over spending the night with Unique and the children, and, they were helping Unique, to unpack some things, and they were, making popcorn or cookies or whatever the case may have been, having just, an indoor, movie night sort of scenario going on.
Yeah. Okay. So they were just basically at home. So the cousin dropped her daughter. And how old is that daughter? I know there's different reports. She might have been 8. She might have been 9. How do you remember? How old do you think she was at the time?
Oh, my God. My baby was turning 10. It was her birthday weekend.
Wow, she was turning 10.
This is my great niece. And it was her birthday weekend, which I think is another reason that Unique has her, over with her and the boys, trying to reconnect my grandsons with their DC family members.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was this a common occurrence that this little girl was over with Unique, sleeping over? Fairly common.
Well, Unique had just moved back to DC. My great niece and her mom lived in DC at the time. So it was not a commuting back and forth regularly from Richmond to DC scenario. No.
Right. Okay. So this might have been the first time since Unique moved back to DC that this little girl had stayed over with Unique.
Like I said, like a reconnection because Unique and my great mom had been high school classmates, as well as I consider my great niece's mom to be a daughter to me, like a daughter to me, because she's been so supportive over these last 10 years, but also because her and Unique had formed a bond, a sisterly bond, before all of this happened. She's been, very, very distraught, about this to the point where she's reached out and, helped me in any way I can, and I still have contact with her to this day, my great niece, and, I'm thankful for that because, a lot of people don't even understand her daughter could have been taken as well.
Sure.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Like my grandson. So she actually was one of the first people. I love my baby Tiffany to death because she was one of the first people that, really dug her heels in, to help me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. What, of course, I need to ask you this, though. Of course, Unique's 2 kids, 2 children, probably a little young, but maybe the older one, that was being that she was going to be turning 10, did she, maybe tell your family or maybe the police talked to her? I don't know, but did she say, what time Unique put them to bed? And, was Unique, going into her room? What did that little girl remember about that night before?
Well, I can't even go into detail about what they child forensic psychologist that,
Right.
and psychiatrist that all of the children that were department, including my grandsons, had to go through because, according to the information I got, that was information that couldn't be privileged to me.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, when my grandsons, when I took them for these interviews, I was not even privy to them.
Right. Okay.
I don't know whether they were, what do you call it, like debriefing or something like that?
Yeah, interview them. Yeah.
I'm not sure,
Okay.
And that was a very, very hard time for me because I was like, no, I should be there with them.
Right.
Because remember now, they were only like, 3 and 5 at the
3
time.
and 5, yeah, 3 and 5. I gotcha.
So,
But let me then put it this way: did the 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old, after the fact, tell you or tell her mother what she remembered about that night before? Just tell you personally, if you can say.
No, actually, Ed, we have tried to shield the children from anything that they didn't want to voluntarily tell us.
Okay.
But they know that we're here. If they ever want to talk about anything that they may remember, and we're not going anywhere, and we will put our lives on the line to protect them.
Okay. So just as an example, this is only an example. So as an example, the children have never said what time Unique put them to bed or anything like that.
No, I'm just going by the last time I talked to them. That's all I can speak on is the last time I talked to them. And then when I did talk to them at that time, I talked to all of them, if I'm not mistaken. And my dad talked to all of them.
Okay. All right. And so they've never really been very descriptive about that night before, what Unique was doing, if she was staying on the couch, if they went to the bed at 9 o'clock, or anything like that.
If there's any information available like that, I don't have that information, and I have not been privy to that information. Now, with the child psychologist and psychiatrist back at that time told the DC Police Department that I have no knowledge of.
Okay. And they've never offered it up. Once again, she was almost 10 at the time, so that little girl would now only, I guess, almost be 20. And then, of course, Unique's children, sons are, I guess, 15 and 13, something like that, somewhere around there.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. They're getting old too fast, growing up too fast.
And I want your listeners to know this part as well.
Uh-huh.
Unique sons have blossomed to the point where now they're growing mustaches and they're having little girls in there. And I don't know how grandma can take that, but
yeah.
I'm just saying, I want your listeners and your viewers and all of your supporters to know that the boys.
Wow. Okay. All right.
They're normal boys.
All right. So we're maybe at least a little unclear about what time, the kids went to bed, because I think you had told me in one of our conversations that your impression that Unique was on the couch, that she was sleeping on the couch or something like that.
Yes, that she had went back out to the living room and was watching TV, laying on the couch, and had a pillow on the couch.
All right, there was a pillow on the couch. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
There was a pillow on the couch or the cot one or the other.
Okay, we'll come back to
10
that.
years makes me a little rusty.
Okay, that's fine. Totally
But
fine.
I remember the main stuff.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I know you do. All right, so we go into the next morning, and we'll talk about this phone call later. But what happens that next morning? Of course, the children are there, and we now know that Unique disappeared sometime during the night. But your understanding, what happens that next morning that these kids wake up, and of course Unique is not there? What happens next?
Oh, boy. Okay. The children wake up. Unique is not there. My great niece calls her mother. Her mother tried to call Unique on her phone, didn't get an answer, so she called my great niece back and told my great niece to call her when Unique got back.
Okay.
Now, when I asked my great niece's mother about that, she, worried me for one thing unnecessarily.
Right.
And for another thing, she thought it may have been a situation where Unique may have dashed out to, the closest store or something like that. And, to get something, last minute for the children's breakfast or whatever, and would be back. Well, by the time I found out, it was like at least probably 3:30 or 4:30. But the children had awoken like, I want to say like between 8:30 and 9:30 that morning.
Yeah.
So between those time frames, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and if my recall is correct, my great niece's mom was talking back and forth to my great niece throughout the day. I guess, doing status checks as to whether Unique had come back.
Come back yet, yeah.
So by the time she contacted me, my first thought was, well, wait a minute. Nobody's seen or heard from you when the kids woke up?
Yeah.
So in that time frame, we adults, my great niece's mother, me, and my father, go into motion, trying to go over to the apartment, make sure the children were secured. My great niece's mother had a preset time with Unique that particular day that she was supposed to be picking my great niece up, because, again, it was my great niece's birthday weekend.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, that's when we just emerged to get the children and then figure out the rest later.
Right.
Figure out the rest later.
Okay.
But
so what time?
my thing was just call the police.
Right.
Somebody has taken my freaking child.
Yeah. Yeah. So who was the first adult that arrived at Unique's apartment? I guess it would be in this woman named Tiffany, the great niece's mother?
Actually, it was between her or my dad.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one got there first. Like I said, we were conversing as far as to getting the children, with a supervised scenario.
Right.
And at the time, I was kind of like nursing myself at this point back to health from my leg being broken. Because I had just broken my leg September the 19th of 2010. And that was another facet of Unique personality that, I miss so dreadfully right now. At that time, Unique was also kind of rehabbing me with my broken leg, like bringing me food every day and, coming to my apartment, getting the children to and from school to make sure I was okay and I had everything I needed. And
Okay. So when Tiffany and your father get over there, the first adults, whoever was first, just from their, of course, very amateur layperson point of view, any signs of violence, any signs that somebody had broken into the apartment, any broken items in the apartment, like a lamp or anything else, or was everything looked just pretty regular from their side?
Well, the version that from my dad that I got was that it seemed like Unique's purses had been scattered throughout the apartment, but we couldn't tell whether that was from her, unpacking from moving or, something else. We just don't know.
Right. Okay.
Because, like I said, my daughter had purses.
Okay. But no signs. Of course, we might say that maybe her purses were spread out like that because somebody was in there looking for money or something. But we don't
sign of like a struggle or
that's what I'm asking.
Or anything like that.
Okay.
However, I had my dad, after we had secured the children, to take me back to that apartment. It took me a while to get up all them stairs because I had a boot on my leg and crutches.
Yeah.
But I finally got up those stairs, and when I got up those stairs and went through each door sill, it's just like, I don't know whether to call it a eerie feeling, a chill, you know, or what to call it, but it just was something that was just off.
Yeah.
It was off.
Okay.
And I saw no struggle, no sign of blood anywhere, you know, no sign of, you know, tossed, you know, furniture, you know, drawers. I saw no signs of stuff like that. But I also have to say that at that time, I was existing.
Right.
And just going through the motion.
Yeah, kind of on autopilot.
Here, but not here. Because all I could think about at that time was, I know damn well ain't nobody touched and taken my child.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just still not real to me at that point.
Yeah.
It's not real to me.
Yeah, your mind's racing. Yeah, absolutely. And you're not the first mother to be on the program.
I just got out of the hospital, you know, from my leg surgery. It was a messy time back then, but I can't say, hey, I still feel the same anger that somebody had the audacity, whoever it was, to touch my child and take her from her children.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part of this whole 10 years, is not knowing. I don't know what happened to my daughter.
Yeah.
And any parent can imagine how that feels a whole decade later. This is 10 years coming up. And then I still have people, you know, that just feel like I should just, you know, I guess go on with my life and leave this in my past. It's never going to be in my rear view. Because this is my child. You know, Ed, we've had conversations back and forth over the last couple of days. So,
yes.
You know.
Sure, we have. Yes, we have.
Nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you, given it was that day, October 10th, 2010, did somebody end up calling the police before that day was over to say, hey, this my daughter, or you know, the mother of these children?
Them, Ed.
Yeah, when?
I called the police.
Yeah, when did you? When?
I mean, I called him as soon as I realized and was told that Unique had been unaccounted for since that morning.
Okay.
Like, wait a minute, where is she? And then I'm calling her phone. There's no, and my child has never not answered my phone calls as long as, you know, she's had some. Never.
Did the police take it seriously, in your opinion?
In my opinion?
Yeah. Yeah.
From the beginning?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Because I had to kind of like, you know, let's just put it like, find my way through people that really, really gave a damn. And I'm still to this day trying to filter that out. Unique has had 8 detectives on her case.
I believe it.
8.
I believe it. Yeah. So what did they do? I mean, I know, we get this a lot, but every disappearance is unique. So you call it in. I guess you filled out a police report, a missing persons report. Did an officer even?
I filled out the police report. I started passing out flyers that my youngest daughter Ashley started generating from an old little beat up printer that I had. We were generating flyers and, flooding her neighborhood with flyers. DC Police even had a flyer. And I'm not, at this juncture, I do realize that, the DC Police Department has been working unique case. And I'm not knocking them in any way. But I think I lost precious time.
Right.
When you're telling people, track her phone, and you don't get certain, phone records and things back, they can't make the phone company give them the records, in a timely manner or anything like that.
Takes
but
time.
All these types of things take time, and this is another reason why, I advocate for other families. Because when I was in the beginning, I was like a fish out of water. I didn't know what to do. I had to learn these things over time, and I just, like and love passing on what I learned to other families. But it was, I personally, and maybe this is just because I'm her mother, I don't think they took it. Especially when it was in the police department 17 where I had reported it at. And I say that from my own experience because I went in there on crutches with a boot on my leg that Monday. And I was turned away because I was told it was the holiday.
Oh, my.
And the person's the post. That should never happen.
No, it shouldn't. What holiday was it in the middle of what holiday is it in the middle of October?
It was like Columbus Day, I believe it was.
Oh, okay.
That year.
All right.
I believe it was like Columbus Day.
Huh.
And I was so furious. My dad had to really calm me down.
I bet.
Because I'm ready to jump over the counter. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
But after that, that's when, Unique Case started moving over to the headquarters and, Major Crimes Division. And, I could see, and I don't know whether I was seeing it because I'm a little bit, and I'll show anybody this. Verbal and tenacious.
I know you are.
About finding my child. But you and I have had conversations, Ed.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
You already know.
I do know.
I don't think I even have to say anymore.
Okay. Well, let me just ask you some more questions, just some factual questions about this. So you call the police. They're blowing you off at least a little bit. They're claiming it's a vacation. These are all things that I've heard before for other disappearances. Oh, this is the first one we've covered in Washington, D.C. But in those days afterwards, you're passing out flyers, etc. Did anybody ever come forward saying, yes, I might have seen Unique here or there or anywhere? Anybody ever? No.
As far as the police department, now as far as information that
anything
from the neighborhood canvassing, there was some type of event that was going on that block that night. Okay?
Huh.
And, there were a lot of people out there, but my thing is I still have a question in my mind as far as, okay, well, as far as Unique building goes, there's only one way in and one way out.
That's it.
How did nobody see anything? Unique building is right on a corner. It's facing
Oh, my.
And the 7th District Police Station is an L shape from her apartment. When we released balloons, and one of the visuals that I have for you, one of the balloons flew. As a matter of fact, it might have been more than one. I know I saw one. Flew in the direction of the 7th D Police Station. And I'm just saying that I don't have any hostility about the police department, especially now, where, I'm just going to be honest. I feel like since it was taken out of 7D, it's got more, focus.
Okay.
Because 7D, like I said, they turned me away on crutches with a boot on my leg, looking for my missing daughter.
Okay, so what you're saying is no credible sightings of Unique, but it sounds like maybe something. I don't know what it was. Something was going on our street. Some sort of festival, or
I don't know whether to call it a block party or.
Yeah.
I can't give you specifics on that because I wasn't there.
All right. Were you able to...
information that I had garnered when I had been canvassing Unique's neighborhood, and unbeknownst to some people, I still, at my own discretion, canvass Unique's neighborhood to this day.
Mm-hmm.
And I will not stop.
No. But nobody that you, once again, being in the last 10 years, you've been through her neighborhood. Nobody, for example, at this block party or whatever was, ever said they saw Unique there. As far as you've been able to get.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
Okay. Were you quickly, being that you did go into the apartment and went through things, all these purses and everything else, you had told me, though, that she's missing, but the keys to her apartment and her phone are also missing. Is that correct?
Yes, because I still don't have her phone to this day.
Okay.
Or her keys.
All right. And when you and your father and Tiffany went over there, was the door to the apartment locked?
I couldn't say whether it was locked because I wasn't the initial person to go over there.
Okay. All right. That'll be something for me to think about. Okay, so she's missing, but it seems, of course, being that she has many purses, maybe she took a purse, and being that she had so many that nobody realized it, or do you believe she left or was abducted without a purse?
I think she was abducted without a purse.
Okay. All right.
I think she was abducted without a purse.
Okay. Let's move on to this. So we have this police involved, although it sounds like you said, from the first second that this happened, you already felt like you were behind, losing time. A lot of people feel like that. Let's move on to some other things.
Time is precious in these cases, baby.
Yeah. Yes, precious time.
No time is of the essence. And
I know it.
And I can remember vividly to this day how I kept saying, track her phone, track her phone, track her phone, track her phone.
Mm-hmm.
Because I even knew that much.
Right. Right, of course. Well, let's talk about the apartment first, and then we can move on to the phone a little bit. But there were some various items that we have talked about. Most importantly, and being that you mentioned this very early on in the conversation about her eyesight, it not being very good, her glasses, though, were found in the apartment. The ones that she wore, what you believe to be all the time, were found in the apartment. Where were they found? And, how unusual would that for it to be for her to not to be wearing her glasses, etc.?
Every waking moment she needed her glasses, number one. Number two, her glasses were found on the pillow where she was sleeping, folded up, Unique's normal pattern.
Mm-hmm.
She's had that pattern for a while. I used to still purchase her glasses, would sometimes, pop her on her hand to make her take her glasses off. She got into a habit of putting her glasses on her pillow next to her, and I even asked her about it. I said, why do you do that? You're going to roll over on them and break them. No, Ma, it's more comfortable for me. All I have to do is reach over here and put them on my face. It's better for me here. I'm not going to roll over on them. And she never did. And she never did. And I still have all her glasses. I found a second pair of her glasses in her apartment, in her things in her apartment, and then her primary pair of glasses I still have to this day. And these were a pair of glasses that she was like so over the moon that she had finally got, that she called me and sent me a picture of the glasses. And from that picture and that time frame on up, those were her primary glasses.
Okay. All right, so they were on the bed, and once again, the way you remember it, and I know that sometimes this can be difficult, but you were there eventually. You weren't the first person, but one of the first people. Did it look like her bed had been slept in or not, or was it nice and made and neat, or do you remember the condition of the bed?
As I can remember, it had purses on it.
Purses on it.
It had purses on it.
Okay.
Like it was an organized type of fashion, though. That's why I say I think that this was, the purses being scattered was, probably her unpacking.
Okay. All right. And I had already asked you about the front door if it was locked, but once again, to your knowledge, these little things maybe can make a difference. Was it the type of door that locked automatically? For example, I live in what you might call an apartment. When I go out, I have to lock the door behind me, or it will be unlocked. Is that the way?
No.
Is that the way her door was?
Yes, she had to physically lock her door, top and bottom.
Okay.
And where the bottom knob was, really damaged, but the top lock, yes, she had to lock it herself.
All right, great. And we determined that probably you weren't the first person, but probably it was locked when somebody else showed up. All right. The children themselves, once again, I would not want you to say anything that would compromise anything, but in talking to them, did they ever recall hearing anything that night? Any, waking up, let's just pick a time, 4 a.m, and hearing bumping or yelling that they thought maybe was outside, but it could have been something. Have the children remembered anything like that, to your knowledge?
Not anything that they, disclosed to me or talked to me about, no.
Okay, so it doesn't seem to me then that the kids heard anything, and you'd think that they would have said something, being that, of course, with the two younger ones, their mother's missing. If they heard something, that you'd think they would have told, maybe not the police because they might be scared, but they would tell you since you're their grandmother. Okay.
Especially by now. Yeah.
Right. Okay, exactly. Regarding Tiffany, again, this is the mother of the great niece that was there. And did she offer up, meaning that you were there with her, you're talking to her, did she ever offer up any of her opinions about anything regarding Unique's disappearance at the time? Once again, I'm not telling you to say anything, but if you can offer anything, did she ever offer anything?
Oh, no. When I did finally talk to Tiffany, she had no ideas about anything. She was just so, as a matter of fact, she couldn't even comprehend something
like this happening. Right. Okay.
And to this day, she still can't comprehend something like this happening to Unique. As I said, Ed, they were very, very close. Unique was closer and is closer to her than, some of my own nieces.
Okay.
And now I see why. The last 10 years has taught me why.
Tiffany has been very supportive, huh? She's been very helpful.
Very supportive. There's nothing that I will ask that child to do that she will not do.
Okay.
She's, made her daughter available.
Okay.
If I need her for, and at this juncture, my great niece.
Yeah.
She's,
19 now. She's 19.
It's amazing, and, it's a blessing because, This is a very, very traumatic situation that her child and my great niece had to go through. This could have turned out, and a lot of people may not understand what I'm saying, but this could have turned out into an ugly situation. She could have barred me from her daughter.
Yeah.
Her daughter could have, been so traumatized that, she didn't want any contact with me as a remembrance. But to this day, both of them
I mean, great. Good.
Some of my jewels.
Okay. Let's move on to this. We have talked about the phone a little bit. You've kind of said in passing that you and other people tried to call Unique, and of course she did not pick up. It sounds like it was going directly to voicemail as soon as somebody realized that she was missing. Tiffany was trying to call her that day before you found out and wasn't getting any response from her. But it is public knowledge, some of the accounts that I've read of Unique's disappearance, so I feel like I have to ask you about it. There is this story about Unique did talk to somebody at 3 a.m., so very early, October 10th, 2010. What can you tell the listeners what you know about that phone call, and who was that phone call with?
What I can tell at this juncture about that phone call is absolutely nothing, because I'm pretty sure people understand that there are very, very critical pieces to this puzzle that need to be put together. Mm-hmm. Now, as far as my information that I have, that phone call has nothing to do with Unique's abduction that I know of. Now, I can only speak for myself.
But you can verify she did talk to somebody at 3 a.m.?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
That's the information that I got.
So we can verify that at least at 3 a.m. that Unique was okay. And so if she disappeared, it must have been after 3 a.m., but before the children woke up, which you said your best guess, you weren't there, it might have been 9 a.m. So in those somewhat of 6 hours is when Unique must have disappeared.
Correct. In my calculations of, my own personal timeline.
Okay. All right, let's move on to this regarding the phone records. You talked about the police trying to ping it and get the records. Do you know if the police have the phone records from back in 2010? Have they pinged the phone? What can you tell? Anything? What can you say?
Well, as far as the pinging, that's where my urgency came in. Now, as far as if they got pings, I don't know anything about that.
They've never talked to you about that.
They've never disclosed to me whether her phone was pinging here, there, or none of that stuff. None at all.
Okay.
As far as the pings. And that was, a source of my, confusion, because I thought those types of things were critical in a critical case like this.
Okay. All right, so we don't know about, and that's, as I think I've told you already. In fact, I've given you maybe some pointers on how you might be able to get those phone records all these years later if the police do have them. But some of my guests have phone records, some of them don't. It just depends. As far as ping information, kind of the same thing. Some of my guests do end up getting the ping information, and some of them don't. It seems to be very hit and miss. But maybe I can ask you this. After she disappeared, did anybody who you trust come forward and say, yeah, I did talk to Unique that night and she seemed fine, or are we only sure of this one phone call at 3 a.m.? Yeah.
But, as far as anybody giving me any information on specific details of conversations,
no. All right. So we're just not sure if she talked to anybody earlier in the evening. We don't know if she was talking to somebody at 9 or 10. Nobody's ever come forward and said, that night that Unique disappeared, I talked to her. Nobody's ever said anything like that. Anybody else?
No.
Okay, very good. All right, let's talk about the boyfriend a little bit. I know that maybe many of the listeners, just the way they are and the way I am too, they automatically become very suspicious about boyfriends, ex-boyfriends, husbands, ex-husbands, but he has a pretty good alibi. Why don't you tell the listeners where everybody believes, including the police, where they believe he was the night that, or the early morning that Unique disappeared? What was he doing?
Well, from my information that I received, he was where he was supposed to be.
Okay.
From my information.
Okay.
Now, as far as have I, investigated it any further, no.
Did the police look into that? Do you know?
I don't know. Only thing I know is what I've been told, and that avenue, he was there where he was supposed to be.
And if you can say, where was he? Where do you believe he was? Where does he say he was?
Well, I was told he was in Job Corps.
In Job Corps, in a totally different state.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And it is also on the record that he was given a polygraph test. Did he pass it?
I have no idea whether let me be clear as far as these polygraphs, because I've had quite a few people contact me in reference to polygraph questions.
Yeah.
All I know is what I've been told by the DC Police Department, and that was that these people have been being polygraphed.
Okay.
Now, as far as the specific determinations
results
from those polygraphs, I've been told that these people I would passed.
They passed them. That's what you've been told. I know.
I never heard the word didn't pass or word didn't pass polygraph.
Okay.
Okay.
I understand.
And that's just the way it is. I've never been given specific details as far as whether it's pass or fail.
Okay, and I realize, I think the listeners realize that it's not like they're going to allow you to sit there while he's taking a polygraph test, of course. And of course, the only way.
Come back, and then they will not come back and tell you. I have to add this part to add.
Yeah.
They will not come back and tell you, specific details, because all you're going to hear is you can't compromise the case.
Right.
As I said, I don't know, I can't even count how many times I will be the last person to compromise Unique's case. But on the other side of that, I do understand that they have to protect the integrity of the investigation.
Right.
I get that point too. But I'm her mother. Is where I get my frustration at non-answers.
Right. Yeah, I get it. And I understand that. You aren't conducting these tests. You're not doing it. You're doing the best that you can, but it's not like you have the power to interrogate people like the police can. Get somebody in a room and or anything like that. And we get that. And of course, once again, they're not going to allow you to sit in while somebody's being given a lie detector test. But I feel like I just have to ask you, because once again, that is something that is out there in the public sphere, you might say. But you're saying that polygraphs were given. You believe that you've been told that they passed them, but that may not be the truth. You just don't know.
Well, as far as I know, they've been given the test, and what those results were, I can't elaborate on because I don't know. Okay.
Now, you stated very early in this conversation that you got to talk to her boyfriend, once again, the guy she was dating at the time, and I'm going to state again that the popular belief, the 99% assurity, is that he was in an entirely different state when she disappeared. But you got to speak to him one-on-one and look him in the eye, and maybe you can explain how that conversation went.
Well, surprisingly, I don't want to say comforting, but I would probably say relieving, because I was looking to sense some, and I know these are not all things that are just indicative, totally to guilt or innocence, but I was looking for somebody to be, nervous, not maintaining eye contact, where, mannerisms would have told me, one way or another. I got none of these indicators. As a matter of fact, he seemed to me to be very forthcoming.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay. Did he ever?
That's all I can say at this point.
Okay. Did he ever tell you the last time that he spoke to Unique before she disappeared?
No.
Okay. Did he participate in any of the searches and vigils and everything that you did back at the time and since then? Did he ever participate in any of them?
No, but I never reached out to him directly.
Okay. All right. And in your conversation with him, once again, looking him in the eye, did he ever offer up his own theory as to what could have happened to Unique? Just his opinion. Did he ever offer up one?
No, actually, he seemed kind of like distraught and befuddled at the whole scenario. No, never offered up any, well, maybe this or maybe that. No.
Okay. And once again, we're not using his name, but once the way you understand it, has he been what has he done with his life over the last 10 years? To your knowledge, has he ever been charged with any violence toward women, anything like that? Once again, to your knowledge.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. All right. Let's just talk about Unique's ex for a little bit. Once again, we're not using his name. He's living in Richmond at the time. Do you know if the police spoke to him about Unique's disappearance?
As far as I know, they did.
Okay. Do you have any?
As far as I know, they had a specific conversation with him. Now, what the result of that was, it always has been one of those things that's a source of, well, why can't, what's going on as far as those things.
Mm-hmm.
But once again, me as her mother, I understand the integrity of the investigation, but at this juncture, 10 years.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
All right. And you've already stated in this conversation that there was an idea out there from somewhere that they were due to have some sort of another hearing regarding maybe child support payments or something, but he told you after she disappeared that he didn't know anything about that. He told you that.
That's what he told me. He didn't know anything about that. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And was he, once again, the same question as we went with through the boyfriend, was he given a lie detector test? Did he take it? And was it kind of the same thing with the boyfriend? Do you know if he passed it or not?
As far as I know, my grandson's father was polygraphed 8 months after Unique was taken.
Okay.
And I've never heard the words passed or failed in that polygraph.
Okay. I understand. Now, but I do have to ask you this. After she disappeared, of course, she has 2 children. Who got custody of the children after Unique disappeared?
It finally wound up that he had primary custody.
Okay. And he raised those kids in Richmond?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So at some point, after Unique didn't come back after a certain amount of time, he got custody, and I guess that makes sense being that he's the father. And I think this also shows that the police couldn't have been too concerned about that, him being, a person of interest, being that the children went to him. In talking to him, once again, just you and him talking, did he ever offer up his own theory as to what happened to Unique?
Well, I haven't had any direct conversations with him in reference to anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as other conversations, I've been hearing, other conversations that he's been having, but, that I can't speak on because it wasn't a conversation with me.
All right. So to you, he's never offered up his own theory.
No, not to me, no.
Okay, that's all I'm concerned about. Okay, so he got custody of the children. I don't know what kind of relationship you have with him. None of my business, none of our business. But he talked to him, I guess, at some point about Unique's disappearance, and he never offered up his own theory. I'll just ask you this: did he seem any, saddened by it or anything like that? Being that you talked about the boyfriend who seemed distraught about her missing, would you say that her ex exhibited the same emotions or different ones?
Not in front of me, no emotions.
No emotions. Okay.
No emotions, not in front of me. I mean, the couple of times I've seen him in passing, no. But as far as, we having conversations, no, that hasn't happened.
Okay. All right. So we have, once again, I have to ask you these questions because, boyfriends, husbands, ex-boyfriends, ex-husbands, they sometimes play a large role in the disappearances of women. Very, very common, and that's why I have to ask you this. But it sounds to me like the police, at least at this point, 10 years later, it somewhat seems satisfied that one guy was in a totally different state and the other guy was 90 miles away. So, and I guess their alibis haven't been cracked in the last 10 years, and of course that certainly means something. I guess that's certainly important. They can't be two places at one time. Okay. Let me just ask you some additional questions about Unique herself. Being that we talked about this phone call at 3 in the morning, and I know that in this call or in this interview, you haven't revealed who that call was with. Of course, you and I have both talked about it. But was it common for her to talk to people in general at 3 a.m. on the phone, to your knowledge?
My daughter was a phone hugger. She
okay.
was back then. It's like now, fast forwarding in and now, Unique is a phone hugger. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, as far as when she was on the phone all the time, no, I can't even tell you that.
Okay.
I can't even tell you that.
Right.
And I'm just being completely honest about that. I can't tell you, whether she would or wouldn't have at 3 o'clock.
Okay, so we just don't know, and I guess none of her friends, Tiffany or anybody else, has ever come forward to say, oh yeah, she used to talk to me at 3 in the morning all the time. Nothing like that. Nothing like that. Okay. I have to ask you this once again, just in my position. Could you ever imagine a scenario where she would voluntarily leave those kids in the bed and go out by herself? Can you ever imagine a scenario like that at all?
No, and that's one of the hard parts of this whole thing for me is my lost time. I have, and I carry to this day, a guilt about lost time. Mm-hmm. I personally, and this is not to, denigrate anybody else because everybody reacts to things the way they know how to. And me as her mother, the minute that she wasn't there in the morning, when those babies woke up, I would have known, wait a minute, something ain't right. Okay. Something ain't right. Something is not right.
All right, so you can't even, once again, I don't know Unique, of course, her being her mother. You can't imagine a scenario of her maybe just going out at, once again, I'll just pick a time, 2 in the morning just to take a walk around the block and leave those kids in the apartment by themselves.
Oh, Hell, no.
Okay, thank you. I need to ask. All right, I have to ask you this. Could there have been some other new man in her life besides her boyfriend? Is anything like that ever popped up in the last 10 years?
No, I haven't heard anything like that.
Okay. And regarding your daughter, and once again, sometimes these things happen in disappearances. Is there anything that you found out of, and I would not ask you to reveal what it was, but I have to ask. Have you ever found out anything about Unique after she disappeared that you didn't know before she disappeared? Something that, I'm not saying this, but maybe an addiction or anything like that at all? Anything?
Actually, there have been a couple of things that maybe I don't think the police department thought I knew.
Okay.
But I knew about my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That's how close we were. So, no.
Okay. All right. So nothing that would have put her in a compromising position, a dangerous position where somebody might be after her or anything like that. You've never heard anything like that?
My daughter has never been an alcoholic, a drug user, anything like that. So all those things that, we see as, things that will make a person vulnerable.
Yes.
No, because, for Christ's sake, she was taken out of her own apartment with her children when she was supposed to be.
Yeah. Okay. I got you. This
it's
question,
like
and I believe you, and I want you to know, and the listeners should know, I believe you. Okay, but in my position as a reporter, I just have to answer these questions, give you a chance to answer them, and stick up for your daughter.
Oh, I just appreciate you taking an interest in Unique's story, Ed, especially during a pandemic, because I've had, an uphill battle, keeping Unique's name and face and story out there. And I just really, really appreciate you taking an interest.
Viruses don't stop us at Unfound. Viruses don't stop us.
Thank God.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. This is where I have to ask, another tough question, probably the toughest question of this entire interview. How tough have the last 10 years been?
You're good at what you do, Ed.
Oh, thank you.
10 years equals a decade.
Yep.
I want all of your listeners and viewers and members to close their eyes and imagine not being with their child, regardless of the child's age, for 1 second. And that's what the last 10 years has been like for me. I've had even close family members in conversations with me where I say it's been however many years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, take a pick, all the way up to 10, without my child. And their response to me was, it's not 1 through 10 years yet. What I want to say to that person is a decade is a decade. 10 years is 10 years. How would they feel if they hadn't had any type of human contact, whether a phone call, whether a hug, whether a kiss, whether just a vision of looking at their child? I have to breathe. I have to breathe.
How is, if I can ask, how is your other daughter and your son handled this last 10 years?
We've been through hell. We've been through hell. I can't even describe. And Ed, you know, I'm a woman of words, many words. But I have no words to describe what this situation has done to me, my other children, my grandchildren, never even got a chance for their aunt to hold them in her arms. Because he's only 6. My granddaughter, who's 10, she was born in July 2010.
Wow.
One of the pictures that I have that is one of my most treasured pictures is of Unique holding her. Unique was so happy to have a niece, a little girl. Unique had already bought things for my granddaughter, but she has not had the opportunity to see her sons grow, her niece grow, or her nephew even be born. Because some savage took that away from Unique. Took it away from her. Because even if she comes back tomorrow, Unique's life, my life, and my family's life will never, ever be the same. Because Unique was taken. And that's one of the things that, over time has healed. But that's one of the things that really, really infuriated me in the beginning was that my child doesn't deserve what happened to her. She doesn't deserve it. And I'm not even going to talk about me, her sons, or anybody else, but Unique. This story is about Unique. It's not about me. It's not about Unique's sons. It's not about Unique's siblings. It's not about Unique. It's not about her grandparents. It's not about none of that. This story is about Unique, a human being that has been barbarically ripped away from her family. And one thing that really just makes my heart and my soul bleed for this person is that their conscience hasn't even caught up with them in 10 years for them to say, I did this.
Yeah.
What does that say? And we talk about before COVID-19. What does that say about the world we living in? Where anybody, and I mean anybody, I'm seeing the story today on the news about this other young lady in Louisville, Kentucky. Money can't bring her back. I want my daughter back. And as God is my witness, I'm not going to stop unless I'm no more looking for her. And I think you already know that, Ed.
Oh, I know that. No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind.
You already know that. You already know that. No family is, and I'm not going to say mother, father, because, I had to really, really do some soul searching on the fact in the beginning I was just talking about, mothers were missing kids and mothers were murdered kids and, and I put fathers, stepfathers with the deceased biological mother in my arena over these last 10 years to see it's too much heartache and pain out here.
You're right.
It's way too much heartache and pain. It's way too much heartache and pain. Are not supposed to not know where their children are. Parents are not supposed to be burying their children. That's indicative of how upside down
That's right.
this world is right now.
It's the opposite of the way things would be. Children realize that their parents are going to die someday and they'll have to be responsible for all those arrangements, but parents don't have kids, thinking that they'll...
Unique is, because I have no firm evidence that she's gone. Unique is my oldest child. So that means I was already teaching her. Okay, Unique, if something happens to me, this is where you find these tapes.
Yep.
Unique, if something happens to me, this is a little, stash away of money. You know what I'm saying?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Whew.
Do you? I know you do, but I know you want to tell everybody about it. Do you have a Facebook page, website, anything else set up for Unique's disappearance? And I have to ask you this, being that this is going to be coming up, in less than a month. Unfortunately, the 10-year anniversary. Do you have any special events planned? If you do, tell the listeners about all of that right now.
And let me tell you this. Unique has had for all these 10 years managed to garner some of the most wonderful supporters. She has a page, Unique RaQuel-Leona Harris, Come Home Now. That's UNIQE, capital RA, capital QUE, hyphen, capital LEONA, Harris, capital COME, capital HOME, Home Now. Facebook page. She has an awaiting Unique Safe Return Facebook page that her sister started.
Okay.
Of course, I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. My primary email address is Harris, HARRIS _VAL. That's AL627@yahoo.com. Any tips from any of your viewers that heard anything, or even if they just have ideas to try to help me to progress Unique case forward. And as I said, I'm awaiting Unique Safe Return because my Facebook page started getting too crazy, so my personal Facebook page is pretty much inactive now.
Okay.
And I've just put my primary focus on Unique RaQuel-Leona Harris Come Home Now page and awaiting Unique Safe Return page. And my Instagram, of course, I'm at Valencia Harris on Instagram, on Twitter, HARRIS _VAL627 @YA on Twitter. And I have a GoFundMe page, of course, your viewers probably already know about. If not, they can go on Unique's social media and get links to that. And
okay.
I'm just going to keep on pushing, Ed. I'm just going to keep on pushing. And I do plan to have another event for Unique, but I've had I think 13, 14, or 15 vigils, birthday.
Mm-hmm.
I called it I think it was like a brunch for Unique. And I plan on doing another event, but I'm sure your viewers and your listeners can understand that, these things that's going through this.
Yeah.
And I said, parents that's going through this. It's an event for the people that are coming, but us, we have to dig into our souls to do these things. Because all events that we plan, we want to plan with our children.
Yeah.
So if we're planning something for our children, and our children are not here, that puts these things into a totally different context. To be quite honest with you, I don't know how I made it through as many vigils. I even had a march for Unique. And we were out there in the rain with umbrellas. Her godmother came from North Carolina. It was just like a weather mess, but we were out there just marching. I actually had a march for my daughter, to bring awareness to this. And I think the thing that I can say for all of us that are in these scenarios, whether it's a missing person, whether it's a victim of violence or gun violence or, sex trafficking, human trafficking, exploitation, whatever it is, all of us families in these scenarios, our followers and our supporters that really, really stick their neck out on the line for us, like I had a meeting with the mayor. I was shocked at how many people contacted me in reference to Unique's meeting with the mayor. It was like, Mayor Muriel Bowser and, when we did the Maury Povich show and The View, it was like such an outpouring of love. These things give family that latch that we can hold on to, that we can keep moving. That we just, regardless of what comes our way, we're going to keep moving. We're going to keep moving. I say it all the time. Not only can I not let Unique down, but I cannot let her sons, I cannot let her followers, I cannot let all the people that have donated to her GoFundMe, I cannot let all the people that have purchased Unique Harris exclusive wear, T-shirts, hats, and fanny packs. I cannot, it's just not enough of me to. Thank you just seems like it's so minuscule when we're in these positions. You and Emily have no idea what a light you all were when you all contacted.
Oh, you're very welcome. That's what we do.
Because this, and you're so cavalier and nonchalant about it till it just it makes me jealous. It makes me jealous, and you're so nonchalant, cavalier, and I get it, and it gets to a point where I don't think you all understand the value of you all to these people. We couldn't even get these stories out, especially now.
Yeah.
I'm still to this day, and people don't even understand. I still to this day try to contact, like ID Channel and all these, Nancy Grace. I still try to contact all these places, and when we get any type of love and compassion and concern, it's priceless. You guys are priceless to us, especially right now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Valencia, you've said a lot there, and I appreciate all those words. I agree with all of it. And I don't have any missing people in my family. I've never had any family members murdered or anything like that, so I don't know what it's like, to be in your shoes at all. But because of that, as I've told many other guests, because these things haven't happened to me, that I feel like myself and anybody else who hasn't had it happen to them, we have a responsibility to give back. We have a responsibility to help people out like yourself who it's happening to every second. Being that, however you want to put it, we haven't had it happen to us, so we try to make the life better for all of you. We have a responsibility.
And you do.
We have a responsibility to do that.
And you do. And you do. You guys really make a difference. I come from a generation where, the TV screens went off, the blank, snowy screen after a certain hour.
Yeah.
All we had were phones in the house, old phones with the coil cord.
Yeah, I know. I'm old enough. I'm 50. I'm old enough to remember. Yes, unfortunately.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, they'd play the national anthem, and then the screen would go to fuzz at 2 a.m.
Exactly. So I just wanted to throw that in there to let you all know how valuable you all are to our families right now. Just think about if I was in this situation with Nick 30 years ago.
Yeah. I know. I get it. I cover disappearances that are that old, so I know. Families telling me about how we wish we would have had the internet back then. We wish we would have had the.
I have a story of a missing person for almost 80 years.
Oh yeah.
How did somebody, a human being, a physical, come up? Nobody knows anything.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah, we covered one on the program. Yeah, we covered one that was 75 years old. Yeah, not that long ago, earlier this year. Yeah, 75 years. Yeah.
And it's only getting worse.
A lot of missing people out there.
It's only getting worse because I never, ever, and I always taught my children about safety and that sort of thing, but I never, ever imagined that this situation would darken my door. Never. So all of these people out here that thinks it will never happen to them, they need to join your discussion. They need to join these missing persons and, all of these horrific stories that a lot of people, and I can understand, this is like too much for human consumption. How these things are happening. Because it was too much beyond my imagination. I heard a lot of stories and I'd always say, oh my God, send a prayer for the family and, sympathize. But I could never empathize until 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And now that's why I'm determined to make Unique's name, Relisha Root's name, Christian Muse's name, Kia Eggleston's name, and so many other names that right now I need my list. It's unbelievable.
It is.
It's unbelievable. And that's why, I don't want you all to shortchange yourselves. Oh, please don't. Because if you all start shortchanging yourselves and doubt yourselves, our family can forget it. As far as, getting the stories out.
Thank you. We've said a lot there, Valencia, but I have to ask you, any final words before we complete this interview?
I have one final thought, and this goes out to my daughter, Unique. Unique, if you're out there, and you can hear your mother's voice, I want you to know that I have never stopped looking for you, and I will never stop looking for you and beating these streets and wherever else I have to go and whatever else I have to do to find you. You are not forgotten. Your mom loves and misses you beyond my words. And I want you to do what I always taught you to do. Pray.
Valencia, I appreciate you being on this episode of Unfound.
I appreciate you taking the time, Ed, because we had a little rocky roller coaster for a while. But just like everything else, God moves mountains and obstacles out of my way. I've said it, so many times before. Anybody that's not in it to win it is just in my way. And I'm willing to stand on a mountain of no's to get to that one yes that will be the diamond in the rough or the ram in the bush that God has for Unique.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that was my interview with Valencia Harris, mother of Unique Harris. I thank her for joining me and all of you on the program. As I stated in the summary before the interview played, this is a tough disappearance for me to analyze, because the two best suspects seemingly have solid alibis, the boyfriend being in West Virginia, and the father of Unique's children in Richmond. How could they have gotten to DC without anyone knowing? Also, what are the odds that Unique spoke to someone at 3 a.m. and she disappears right after that, and that person has nothing to do with it? That's pretty coincidental. However, to be clear, the reason Valencia didn't want to mention who Unique spoke to at 3 a.m. is because in mentioning this person's name, Valencia is afraid all the attention will be put on this person, in her opinion, for no good reason. But the ex has the same issue. How convenient is it that Unique disappeared during a time when they were having custody problems? Not to mention that the ex got custody of their children after Unique disappeared, and now has to pay 0 child support. That's also pretty convenient. As for the murder that Unique witnessed a few weeks before she disappeared, I found an account of it. Here's how it reads. On Sunday, September 12th, 2010, shortly after 1 a.m., officers from the 7th District responded to the 2400 block of Hartford Street Southeast for the report of a shooting. Upon arriving, they discovered a victim lying on the ground, suffering from gunshot wounds. DC Fire and Emergency Medical Services personnel responded and transported the victim to a local area hospital, where he was subsequently pronounced dead. Preliminary investigation revealed that the decedent and a subject were involved in an altercation, and the same subject apparently had been shot as well. Further investigation revealed that the suspect had arrived at a local area hospital with a gunshot wound. The victim has been identified as 31-year-old Leroy Bryant of Hartford Street Southeast. The suspect has been identified as 36-year-old Cottrell Austin Henry of Southeast Washington, D.C. Mr. Henry was arrested and charged with first-degree murder while armed. What I get from this article is that police pretty much had all the evidence they needed once they found Cottrell Austin Henry, and it sounds like they found him fairly quickly. So this doesn't seem like a situation where Unique would have been a key witness, and that somebody killed Unique so she couldn't testify. Not at all. Thus, I'm inclined to agree with police that Unique's disappearance and the murder have nothing to do with one another. However, the murder does indicate that this area could be dangerous. If, let's say, Unique decided to go for a walk by herself after she spoke on the phone that night, but she wouldn't go for a walk without her glasses, right? That takes us back to the apartment itself. Is it possible Unique got contacts without anyone knowing? That would account for the glasses being there. But you'd think people who knew Unique best would know if she got them, right? So it's safe to assume Unique still used her glasses to see clearly. This leads me to a paradox if Unique really was blind without her glasses and slept on the couch. Why were her glasses neatly folded on her bed a room away? On the other hand, if Unique moved to her bed at some point and put her glasses there, why didn't the bed look slept in? Valencia said it had purses on it. And if Unique made her bed after sleeping in it, wouldn't she have worn her glasses to make it? That takes me to the second part of the paradox. If Unique was abducted and wasn't wearing her glasses right at that second, what kind of abductor would allow her to lock the apartment door on the way out? Really, would a kidnapper even allow her to grab her keys? Probably not. On the other hand, if Unique went out and locked the door behind her all on her own, why wasn't she wearing her glasses? Yep, those points are stumpers. But if you will go back to the murder article for a moment, look at what it mentions. The killing happened after 1 a.m. outside, and Unique witnessed it, proving that she was normally awake at this time and wearing her glasses. So, why wasn't she wearing her glasses at that early morning hour when she disappeared? I think if we could figure this out, we would be much closer to determining what happened while the children slept. I'll leave the theorizing up to you. And that's the program. If you found it informative, please go to the app that you use to listen to Unfound and give this podcast a nice review. I thank you for listening. I'm Ed Densel, and you've been listening to Unfound.